Am I the a-hole for dropping out of maid of honor role last minute because of an emergency? My best friend Chloe was getting married last Saturday, and I was the maid of honor. For 1 year straight, I was the main planner for her and did the best that I could to fit the standards she had set for the wedding. I even planned an amazing bachelorette party for 1 month before the wedding, but I couldn't do this without the gorgeous bridesmaids as well. 2 days before the wedding, my husband had a heart attack and was hospitalized. Doctor said his situation was severe, and he was transferred in an ICU. Later, doctors told me he needs an emergency open heart surgery the next 24 hours. The situation was very life-threatening, and we could lose him any time. My best friend called me to wish me well, and I thanked her. She also asked if the surgery will happen before the wedding, and I said that it will happen the day before, but it will last for many hours. She said, "That's all right. Just making sure it doesn't intervene with the wedding, that's all. It's sad we can't have Ben there, my husband, but we'll have you and you can eat and drink for both of you. Haha." That's when I told her I won't be able to come to the wedding whether my husband's surgery is over or not, because I need to care for him and I want to be next to him until we are all 100% sure he's gonna be fine. She said she understands, but she reminded me that as a maid of honor I have a duty, and it's 1 day before the wedding, so I can't drop out. I said that I am sorry about this, but I almost lost my husband and I don't want to leave his side yet. She didn't curse me out or anything, but she was very upset and she started crying. She said she understands and wished me well again. My husband's surgery went well, and we were now waiting for his recovery. It was the day of the wedding, and I called my best friend to wish her well. She didn't pick up. Later, a video called one of the bridesmaids and she answered. I asked to talk to Chloe, but she said she's busy getting ready. I said fine, I'll call later. I called again and again, but no response. I thought she was simply busy with the preparations. I called the day after the wedding and still no response. She wouldn't reply to my text at all. I contacted some of the bridesmaids and they told me that she's very upset with me for dropping out the day before the wedding, and that I should make it work no matter what. Some of them said I did what's reasonable and how my husband's health should be my priority, but some others feel like I let down the bride on her big day, and I shouldn't expect a word from her anytime soon. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I want to clarify that this is the first time my friend has ever acted like this. We faced many difficulties during wedding planning, but she was always a sweetheart about it and made sure to never give a hard time to anyone. She was actually the most chilled bride I've ever met in my life. There was no way I thought she'd react like this over such an important emergency, because I didn't have previous signs that she'd act like that. Another disclaimer. On the day of the wedding, I stopped calling because I figured she would not reply because she's busy. But later I was told that she was only not replying to me, specifically because she was upset. She had taken few calls from relatives who couldn't attend because of distance. She specifically didn't respond to me. One of the bridesmaids also pointed out how it's weird that she never called me to ask how my husband's surgery went. But as a best friend, she could take a couple of minutes out of her day to simply see if everything's okay as well. Never thought about this until my friend, the bridesmaid, mentioned it. So now it hurts way more. Now for the comments. Not day home. And my heart breaks for you to even have to ask this. You did everything perfectly, dear. If it was her in the hospital, would she prefer her now husband to go to a party or stay and sit with her? Or if it was her husband having open heart surgery, would she have the guts to go out and party knowing what he was going through? I'm so glad your husband's surgery went well, and I hope for a speedy recovery. I felt so guilty for a moment. Part of me still feels guilty for at least not making sure to attend the ceremony and skip the reception. But I don't know if that would be right considering my husband was just out of his surgery like that. You have absolutely no reason to feel guilty. You even FaceTimed the bride on her big day. You seem like a great friend and a great wife, and I understand a bride being mad that her maid of honor couldn't be there. But I would never expect someone to leave their significant other in pain for my wedding day. The bride can be mad or sad about the situation, but she has no right to be mad at Opie. Opie, you did exactly what you should have. It was an emergency, and your husband's health comes first. Chloe was out of line to ask you to attend anyway, knowing how sick he was. And she is out of line now to be freezing you out. And she should have checked in to see how his surgery went. Not stay home. She's delusional if she thinks her wedding should take priority over your husband's life. I wouldn't try so hard to repair this friendship, especially since she's creating more stress for you when you are already dealing with a lot. This. Support goes both ways. Where is she when you need her? Sulking. It didn't even cross my mind at first. She hasn't even checked up on me to see if my husband is doing well after a life-threatening situation. Everyone around me has called. Even my ex-boyfriend has texted me to wish well for my husband. Distant relatives and co-workers have contacted me, except my best friend. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not letting my niece borrow my engagement ring? I, 28 female, recently got engaged to the man of my dreams, and he picked the perfect engagement ring. I can't get over how well he did without asking me any questions about it. It even fits perfectly despite neither of us actually knowing my ring size. I was watching my little niece, 6 female, this weekend when she saw my ring. She thought it was really pretty and wanted to try it on. I explained to her that this ring was very special to me and that I didn't want anyone else wearing it. However, I have other jewelry that we could go through together and she could wear if she wanted. She didn't. She just wanted to wear this ring, so she started pouting. I tried to get her to focus on other things and activities, but she was still in a mood about it by the time my sister, 26 female, came to pick her up a couple of hours later. My sister was annoyed and asked why I couldn't just let her wear it for a little bit. I tried to explain, but she said I just don't understand kids. Later in the week, my sister stopped by with my niece to let my dogs out while I was at work. In my line of work, wearing a ring isn't very practical, so I leave it in the ring box by my bed and put it back on when I get home. When I got home, I couldn't find it. I panicked. I looked everywhere I could think of. I called my sister to see if she had seen it while she was there, and she admitted she took it and let my niece wear it for the day. I was fuming. They had gone to the zoo. It could have been lost anywhere. My sister even admitted that they had forgotten it on a table for a few minutes. But I shouldn't be mad because they got it back. I yelled at my sister that she shouldn't have taken the ring when I specifically told her I didn't want my niece or anyone else wearing it, because I was worried about this exact kind of thing happening. I told her that I would find someone else to let my dogs out when I was working, and that she wasn't allowed in my house when I'm not home anymore. She said I'm being unfair to my niece who loves my dogs, and just wanted to feel like a princess for a little while. I'm not mad at my niece, and I don't want to punish her for what my sister did. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Your sister stole the ring. Stole it. I tell her to pound sand and not talk to her for a while. But you do you in that regard. You never had to let your niece borrow it anyway. Nobody's obligated to share, especially not a piece of jewelry. And the entitlement and attitude from your sister is appalling. Your niece would get over the small normal childhood disappointment because, surprise, surprise, most people won't want to share their jewelry with her. And change your locks. Like, how on earth does the sister think what she did was acceptable or right? She reeks of entitlement. Not the a-hole. Your sister stole your engagement ring. Please make sure she has no access to your house going forward. Yeah, don't just revoke her key status, OP. Full on change your locks because she may have made copies in case she lost hers or whatever. I've heard too many horror stories of this exact scenario happening. They take X person's key for Y reason, and it turns out X made a copy and broke in for whatever reason. Not the a-hole. How would little princess have replaced it if it had gotten lost or damaged? Or dirty? I love little kids, but a 6-year-old has no concept of the value of an engagement ring. Sister is beyond out of line. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for spending thousands of dollars of my nephew's trust assets? Before his death, my father chose me as trustee for a trust that he set up for Jacob, my severely disabled nephew, but my sister was jealous about not having been chosen as trustee and asked me to quit. She once admitted that she had plans for how to spend the trust money, such as to spend it not only on Jacob, but also on other relatives she is fond of who are not named in the trust. I thought that would be wrong and would cause trouble. Although my sister knows I'm an honest person, she told my nephew and his family that I was stealing much of the money in the trust, and suggested that I should be sued and removed as trustee. Until she made those false statements, Jacob and I got along very well together, especially since I kept sending money from the trust for whatever he needed. But after that, he no longer trusted me, even though I offered to sit down with him and go through all the accounts and explain everything in detail so he might understand. Unfortunately, he is confused and easily manipulated. At the encouragement of some of his relatives who are very, very interested in the trust money, he hired a lawyer who sent me letters accusing me of criminal actions and threatening to take me to court to remove me as trustee. I cared deeply about Jacob, so I warned him that his legal action against me would force me to hire my own lawyer, that the trust would have to pay for and that it would be expensive. But he didn't listen and said he didn't care. He told me he had been assured by people he trusted that I would have to pay for all of his and my legal fees out of my own pocket. In order to prove that I had stolen nothing and remained trustee, I had to pay several $1,000s from the trust for legal expenses. Jacob was shocked that the amount was far more than he had expected, and I don't think he understands what was proven when his lawyer gave up and quit after reviewing my clean accounts. Now, almost everyone, including Jacob, says I'm a terrible trustee and that I abused Jacob and did not act in his best interest by wasting trust money. I hated having to spend trust money on legal fees, but I was trying to protect the trust from people who might have misused it if they had taken over as trustee. I was afraid that if I didn't remain trustee, the entire amount of money in the trust would disappear at the hands of my eager successor, and Jacob would get nothing more. Now he continues to get large, regular monthly payments. Am I the a-hole for spending thousands of dollars of trust money? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. I hate to say it because your nephew is disabled, but this was an expensive lesson for him in who to trust and who not to trust. If he hasn't learned it by this point, there's not much you can do about it. I appreciate your sensitive reply. I do feel sad and frustrated that he isn't able to understand who his friends are, but I'm hoping he will in time come to realize the truth. In the meantime, I keep doing my job. That's about all you can do. Hopefully you'll see the light one day. Not today, home. Who has power of attorney for him? The lawyer he hired likely took advantage, and you should file a bar complaint. Maybe have an outside accountant audit the trust annually. Allow the family to see the books, but don't allow them access. I do have an outside accountant, and I do allow the family to see the books. Unfortunately, some people got excited by seeing the amount that is in the trust. Although they don't have access, apparently they wanted access. Not today, home. But is there a way to make those greedy family members reimburse the trust for a frivolous lawsuit designed to get a hold of a vulnerable person's money? I was tempted to try, because I don't view this situation as Jacob's fault, but I don't want to get into interminable lawsuits with relatives that might cost more than what was lost. Besides, these are family members who probably didn't anticipate that they would be hurting Jacob the most. By carefully investing of what was left in the trust, I have replaced all the money that was lost, and then some. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my stepdaughter she's ridiculous? My husband and I have been together for 5 years and married last month. My husband had a kid with his ex-girlfriend when they were 16. His daughter's now 19. Hubby is now 35 and I'm 28. His ex-girlfriend and him had a good relationship and a healthy co-parenting of their daughter, but things never worked out between them. They stayed together for the sake of the kid for 4 years, but then decided it's better to break up and figure out co-parenting. When I met my husband, his daughter was 14, and as a young person myself, I tried to fit in with her and build a good relationship, but she refused. I respected her boundaries and understood it's not easy for every kid to see their parents with someone else. But growing up, my stepdaughter started being obsessed with my husband beyond the normal. She would always ask to sit on his lap, she'd always call him hot, and she also insulted me multiple times as if she was a jealous ex. I found her whole behavior concerning, and I suggested my husband gets the kid to a therapist because she might have some unresolved trauma from the past. She went to therapy and bettered herself for some time. She stopped visiting her therapist once she turned 18 and moved out. Since then, she's been demanding my husband takes her on dates, buys her clothes, buys her jewelries. She posts pictures with my husband on social media with captions, "My one true love, my man." She started being insulting towards me once again and called me a chick every time she met me. And unprovoked told me she'll always be number one woman in my husband's life. I know my husband loves his daughter, and I know his daughter comes first, but her attitude troubles me a lot. On me and my husband's wedding, his daughter wore a white dress which was similar to a wedding dress and also had a small train. Her mom, hubby's ex who was also invited, scolded her. After this ongoing behavior, my husband tries to establish some boundaries with his daughter. But she's throwing tantrums and accuses my husband of choosing a cheap woman over his actual daughter. I told her that I've had enough, and she needs to stop being a ridiculous entitled brat and accept that her dad is an adult man who deserves his own personal life. That was apparently harsh. My husband sided with me, but some of my friends who I told them this told me I should never insult my husband's daughter no matter what. Am I the a-hole? 9 out of 10 times I side with stepchildren on issues. You're not the a-hole for this one. That girl needs some serious help, but I feel bad for her. I hope she goes back to therapy and can accept she needs to work on whatever is troubling her so deeply. Going forward, don't be afraid or reluctant to protect yourself, especially mentally. Hope you'd like to add that what your friend said is probably good advice. Not for the reason that you might be an a-hole, but for the reason of not escalating any situation with her. Good luck. I normally roll my eyes at suggestions of therapy. Not this time. Something is clearly up here. Not the good kind of something. Not stay home. She's displaying worrying behavior and needs to go back to the therapist. She's displaying an unhealthy view towards her dad. It is possibly showing signs that she's confusing familial love with romantic love. If she doesn't get this resolved, she could become very delusional. It risks harming her relationship not only with her father and yourself, but with her entire family. It's also very possible that she has underlying mental health issues which haven't been diagnosed yet. Either way though, you're not day-hall in this. How is your husband even remotely okay with any of this? He needs to put an end to this ASAP. His daughter's behavior is obsessive AF. Not stay home. He's not okay with this. He's very uncomfortable that his grown daughter is acting like that. He insists she should go to therapy because she's treating my husband as a romantic partner, which is not normal. And my husband believes it may be trauma response from her childhood and the fact that she was closer to her dad and estranged from her mother for years. But she's an adult and she can't be forced into therapy by my husband.